I'm Greg Gorbach, and I'm here today with Tom Kurtz, Global Solution Lead, Asset and Service Management with SAP.
Hello, Greg.
Welcome, Tom. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
So, in the world of maintenance and asset management, SAP talks about closing the loop between sort of the execution side and the asset strategy side.
hmm
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Love to. Yeah, absolutely. Closing, that's something we talk a lot about, closing the loop between those two. And so, again, those two are the world of maintenance execution, work order management. That's a world that has existed. That's how people maintain their equipment, their assets. SAP has serviced that world for many years. We have many customers doing that. And what we're hearing more and more is customers want to be able to extend those processes. I don't want to just maintain my equipment. I want to manage the entire life cycle of my assets. And so in order to do that, there's more upstream with asset strategy that they need to be able to do. So they want to be able to manage and assess the risk and criticality of different types of assets. They want to understand if this asset goes down, what is the severity of that happening? Do I care as much about that one as I might about another one because it's more severe if it goes down and there's more security issues or safety issues or cost issues? So they want to be able to do more with risk and criticality. They also want to be able to do more predictively. They want to be able to connect to those assets and be able to do IoT and predictive maintenance that way. So really that world of asset strategy, connecting it in an integrated fashion with the maintenance execution, being able to generate the recommendations that feed directly in. That's what customers we're finding want to do these days.
Okay, thanks. So, is that SAP's exclusive focus in today's asset management world?
It starts there, and I think one of the biggest things that we also talk a lot with customers about, and I think one of the value that a lot of companies see with SAP is they don't want to just close the loop between strategy and execution. They go beyond that. So once you have that, they also want to be able to say, okay, I need to integrate with other systems across my enterprise. I need to be able to connect with my finance systems, my procurement systems, my HR systems, my materials management systems. And so that closed loop that we talked about on the asset side has to go beyond that. It has to break down the silos across the enterprise and be able to connect with the other parts of your enterprise business. And then the final piece beyond that is that's within your enterprise. Today, a lot of companies are wanting to go beyond that. They see, hey, I don't just need to be able to manage processes across my enterprise. I need to go across my entire ecosystem. They need to go outside the enterprise into the networks that they live in. And so that's another thing that you see SAP talking a lot about with is business networks, being able to connect to the ecosystem. In the asset world, that translates to manufacturers, operators, service providers, all being able to share information and work collaboratively. So those three pieces of closing the loop across asset strategy and maintenance execution, also across your entire enterprise, also outside your enterprise, across your entire network.
Okay. So I know you and lots of others use the term servitization these days.
Indeed.
And when we were talking earlier, you mentioned about it's time to get serious about services. Can
Yes.
you elaborate on that?
It is time to get serious about services. So one of the shifts that we've been seeing for quite a while now is the need, you'll hear it termed outcome-based services, you'll hear it termed product as a service, but a lot of organizations, manufacturers in particular, are seeing an opportunity to introduce new business models. They don't want to just sell a piece of equipment to their end customer, their end operator. They want to sell value-added services along with that. And customers are expecting that more. More and more customers, the same way you might look in the IT world to have a cloud solution because you want to outsource that for OpEx reasons or CapEx reasons. You want to be able to have an outcome that you're paying for. A lot of equipment users are looking at that same equation. So a lot of companies are seeing this opportunity. And in order to do that, servitization, so that's the buzzword that people are calling it a lot of times. In order to be able to do that, there's really an end-to-end, a full end-to-end service management model that the companies need to look at. So it's not just, I need to be able to connect to devices and run and dispatch people accordingly. I need to go further upstream. I need to be able to run the service automation. I need to be able to do customer service up front. And so that end-to-end need is what a lot of companies are seeing.
Okay. Let's shift a little bit. We've been talking sort of about process, but let me ask a technology question.
Sure.
What do you see, what role do you see for mobility in today's solutions?
A definite one. So you're right. We talk a lot about process. We love to do that at SAP, but you have to automate and enable those processes through technology, and mobility is a big piece of that. So through our core product, flagship product, if you will, around mobility, SAP Service and Asset Manager, that's a product that we are seeing historically a lot of companies use from a maintenance and asset world, but the servitization, the outcome as a service we just talked about, we see it there as well. So to accommodate all these different scenarios, we want to build in, and we are building in, persona-based functionality into the mobile solution. So examples of those user personas might be a service technician would want to use it in the scenario we just talked about, or a maintenance technician would want to use it. And finally, a third example is inventory clerk. So again, we talked about the different ways that our products need to be able to integrate. Customers want their systems to integrate. An inventory clerk might want to be able to use mobile systems as well. And maybe a closing point on that, there's so much discussion these days about the need to do things more remotely to keep worker safety in mind, being able for workers to have these mobile devices so that they can work remotely, so that they can automate the processes. All of those are factors that we very much take into consideration with our mobile products.
Okay. So when we think about asset management, right away we think about physical assets, but we also need to think about people. Can you talk about how you guys think about that and what are the trends?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I'm glad you asked about people, because we talk about process, we talk about technology, but people are a very important part of the equation. I think we just touched on one with mobility in terms of being able to empower the employees to be able to do that. I think another piece that's related to that is the worker environment that we find ourselves in. In asset management, I think we have an aging workforce and people that are closer to retirement. And I think being able to share knowledge from those individuals using technology across and scaling it that way is important. But I also think that we know that we're in a tight labor market. That a lot of companies are having a tough time hiring the right level of people. And so creating environments like this where the technology helps empower the users, not only keeps them safe, but empowers them to have a very enhanced experience, is a competitive differentiator for a lot of companies.
Okay, terrific. And I think maybe I'd like to wrap with this question about sustainability. It's a big disruptor, and it's also important to society.
Indeed.
What's SAP doing with regard to sustainability?
A few different things. I'm going to answer that in a couple ways. So the most direct systems way is what kind of products are we producing out there? And there are more sustainability products that SAP has today, whether it be intelligent product design, so being able, in our engineering side of things, being able to design products more intelligently so that it can be feeding into the supply chain and eventually feed back into the circular economy concept. So that's one specific product. We're also doing a lot around analytics, and companies are needing to report more from an ESG perspective. But finally, specifically for asset management, a lot of the products that we already have, the ones we've talked about today with asset performance management, with service and asset management, a lot of those things are helping companies reduce emissions by having more route optimization and allowing people to drive less miles. The ability to lengthen the life cycle of an asset, so you're not having to recycle assets as much. They're in society providing value for longer periods of time through maintenance, optimization is important. So those are just a couple examples of what we're trying to do.
Okay. Well, thanks, Tom. Really enjoyed speaking with you today and some great insight. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. I've been speaking with Tom Kurtz, Global Solution Lead, Asset and Service Management with SAP. Thank you for watching.